Super Mario RPG is a classic, and with the Switch remake coming out, there's never been a better time to dive into what makes the original so special. You start off rescuing Princess Peach from Bowser's castle, pretty standard scenario. After a few easy fights, you're up against Bowser himself in a tutorial battle, and this is where things get interesting. Mario RPG is a turn-based game, but you can react in real time to attacks. Time your button just right to deal extra damage or reduce damage. Back in 1996, this was revolutionary stuff, and it kind of still is. Although the other turn-based Mario games all feature reaction commands, I can only think of a handful of other games that use them, and it's kind of hard to see why. Reacting to attacks is such a fun way to keep players on their toes and make them feel more active in battles rather than just passively waiting for their next turn. Anyway, you beat Bowser, and just as you're about to save Peach, a massive sword surrounded by 7 stars slams down from the heavens. This is the Smithy Gang, and they've kicked Bowser out of his own castle. We need to regain those 7 stars to drive back these invaders, so the adventure begins. Along the way, we meet new party members. Mallow is definitely a frog and absolutely not a cloud. He casts all sorts of weather magic, and a good chunk of the story is seeing Mallow grow from a crybaby to a full-fledged party member. Then there's Geno, a toy come to life who is always being requested for Smash Bros. He's the one who teaches us all about the Star Road. He's quite fragile, but Geno has some very powerful attacks. For a few of them, if you time them just right, Geno can deal 9,999 damage to certain bosses. The Twitch chat kept warning me how hard the timing is, so I was pretty stoked to get it on my first try. I did it! What? Are you serious? We also have famous returning characters too. Playing with Princess Peach, or Princess Toadstool as the 1996 game calls her, gives you nice support options. And then there's Big Bad Bowser, an absolute tank of a unit who has some pretty great attacks, like straight up throwing Mario at enemies. As a quick note, Mario RPG does such a good job of making new weapons fun because they tend to have new animations and sound effects. If you ever wanted to know why Peach has a frying pan in Smash Bros, it's actually her best weapon in this game. But yeah, Bowser. I'm pretty sure this is the first time in any Mario game you get to play as him, which had to be a pretty big deal back in the day. Bowser wants to take his castle back from Smithy's gang, and so he begrudgingly teams up with Mario. This is the first game where we get to see a softer, goofier side that still lives to this day. Super Mario RPG can be hard at times. It's not always clear what the timing is to reduce an enemy's attack or to do an extra bonus on your side. If you think the game's for kids and can therefore be breezed through, think again. You definitely need to grind in a few areas, but at the end of the day, it's not so bad because even if a boss defeats you, you still get to keep your experience points. And look, I absolutely adore the mini-games. There are several throughout the game, from speeding on a minecart to hiding behind curtains, and surprisingly, all of them are a blast to play. I think Mario RPG was smart to not overuse any of them, and the developers thought hard about how to make each one feel fun, rewarding, and relevant to the story. One thing I don't love are the visuals. I am a huge fan of the Super Nintendo and the 16-bit aesthetic in general, and look, it's extremely impressive what Squaresoft was able to pull off. That isometric 3D look is extremely unique, but the color palette is dark and muddy, so much that I sometimes had a hard time reading the wooden color dialogue box, but hey, I'm colorblind, so maybe it wasn't an issue for you. I think overall the game looks fine, but I don't love it, and I hope that the remake expands the color options with lots of brighter tones that fit Mario's world. The second thing I don't love is the music, and I can already feel the hate comments brewing. Look, I adore Yoko Shimomura. Her work in Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 are top tier games for me. Her work in them slays me to this day. She's an industry icon, I get it. And look, it's not like her Mario RPG soundtrack is bad. It feels right at home in the Mario universe. Just kind of forgettable. Sometimes my viewers on Twitch play songs from this game, and I never ever seem to recognize them, except for, the Mushroom Forest. Yeah, that's definitely a classic. Look, if I'm being honest, most of my first playthrough Super Mario RPG felt kind of mid. Like, I could see the origins of all these cool Mario RPG mainstays, but I felt like folks had a lot of nostalgia glasses on. until I reached the endgame. To say that I was surprised by what Mario RPG had in store for the finale is a gross understatement. I've played a good amount of all the other turn-based Mario games, not all of them, but a solid selection, and this was the first one that really made me feel something. You see, all throughout the game, you get these hints that Smithy's gang is something not of this world. The bosses kind of fit in the Mario universe, but something about them is a bit off. As you travel through the endgame, this haunting other dimension that's dark and brooding, the pieces come together and you start to understand the truth of what's happening. Mario's world is being invaded, like militarily invaded with guns and weapons and violence. Smithy gets his name because he's a literal blacksmith. He's got this factory that's pumping out all the bosses on a never-ending loop. This quote by him says it all. "Why don't you give me your stars? Why, then I could easily conquer this world. Then we could get rid of all wishes and create a world filled with weapons." Look, maybe I'm just a sappy guy, but this twist that Mario's world is being infiltrated by killing machines, it really got to me. I think the writers had such a clear understanding of the magic of Mario games, this wholesome fantasy world of stars and princesses and dreams, and they devised the perfect villain that stands opposite to all of that. Smithy's invasion is so clever in that it truly feels invasive. I can't think of any other final boss in a Mario turn-based game that got such an emotional rise out of me, and for that alone, I think Super Mario RPG is a gem. Is the game perfect? No. And I'm really curious to see what the Switch remake has to offer in terms of new additions and new features, but at the end of the day, Super Mario RPG is more than just the first turn-based Mario game. It's more than just the progenitor of an interesting dynamic between Mario and other genres of gameplay. It's really something that stands out on its own, from the unique visuals, which admittedly I don't love but are still very interesting, to all sorts of great action and very, very comedic moments. I think Mario RPG is absolutely worth a play. I'm looking forward to seeing what the remake has to offer, and if you really enjoyed this video, consider joining our community. We are on the road to 5,000 subscribers, and I'd love to know which Mario RPG game you think I should review next. Catch you later, Scouts.